high-tech oils, available from Auto One, Sprint Auto Parts, and all leading independent auto stores.
Colin Osborne has been a familiar face to the Australian production car landscape since the halcyon days of the Pro Car Champ Series. After racing prominently with Toyota machinery and most recently the Mazda 3 MPS, Osborne returned to the Australian Manufacturers Championship this weekend at the wheel of a brand new Renault Megane, and his expectations are realistic.
Yeah, look, it's going to be a really steep learning curve for us. We've got pretty realistic expectations, I think. You know, we want to go home on Sunday night with 2 unbent toys in the truck and a list of things to do. So it's really a bit of a giant test session for us, to be honest.
The shift from Mazda to Renault came about unexpectedly following a sickening crash at Sydney Motorsport Park last July involving one of the team's Mazdas, with young Queenslander Brock Giblin suffering serious burns.
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange thing. It certainly wasn't something that was planned, but one of our cars was sort of destroyed in a fairly serious accident last year, and we needed to build another car to replace it. And there wasn't a lot of point building a car that was going to be sort of 8 years old when we finished it, and you'd spend, you know, a lot of money on building it and it'd be worth half what you spent when you finished it. So it was really a case of find something new, and every time we looked at things objectively, you know, the Renault package was up there or thereabouts with anything else in the class, and so that's how the decision was made, really.
The Australian Manufacturers Championship cars out on the racetrack here at Queensland Raceway for the next round of their national tour, an all-endurance championship. This weekend we're sort of moving to sprint round, 200-kilometre races on the cards at QR. The first one held on Saturday night, the annual Fight in the Night. It's a real highlight, and it was Beric Linton who got the victory, finally breaking through for a Fight in the Night win. Grant and Ian Sharon second. They start second for this race. Rick Bates and Aaron Seaton go from P3.
After a DNF in the opening race on Saturday night for round 3 of the Australian Manufacturers Championship, things went from bad to worse for the Mitsubishi Evo of Wade Scott and Callan Sayers in the Sunday morning warm-up when the car rolled into the Turn 1 sand trap, ending their weekend.
Yeah, basically the front windscreen is crunched in and a few body panels here and there are crunched in. Just too much work to do to get it ready for the race. We should get it right for the next round, hopefully. But yeah, for my part, a mistake, and we've paid for it.
It was an all BMW front row under beautiful blue skies at Queensland Raceway as the lights went out. Beric Linton picked up where he left off on Saturday night, taking the lead ahead of the Sharon brothers and the 2 Product Evo 10s of Rick Bates and Bob Pearson. Ian Sharon pounced at turn 3 to take the lead.
That's a great move by Sharon. The slightly lighter number 18 BMW 135i against the 1M driven by Beric Linton. Class A versus Class B, but great performance parity between them. And now the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution from Product Racing ranging up behind our winner of the Saturday night race, the Fight in the Night. Beric's been trying to win that one for a long time. Rick Bates, rally star, famous rallying family, been part of this Product squad this year. Young Aaron Seaton alongside, and have a look at the big HSV looking down the inside. It's got so much straight line potential, this car. Still struggling to get some reliability into the Mocom entry, but man, it's quick. Have a look at the horsepower from the big V8. Drags past an Evo and ticks off a BMW before it gets into turn 1 as well. Great move. Just straight line performance. So the rear wheel drive BMWs fighting with the big V8 HSV GTS, the 4-wheel drive turbo Mitsubishi in the mix, but the Sharon boys in front, so desperate to win one of these races outright. They've been second so many times and they've won their class so many times, but yet to tick that box of winning one of the races outright. So the big HSV just munching up the gap between it and the leader, and the 2 Evos now running line astern, the 2 Product cars. So lots of diversity at the front of the AmChamp field. It's not the biggest field we've ever seen in AmChamp, but the diversity, if anything, this year has gone up a notch, especially in terms of the cars that can fight for an outright level. So this is a good start from the Mocom HSV. They had dramas in the race last night, and ultimately dropped down the order. Started 7th in this one, already 2nd, and now up behind the yellow and red bumper bar of the race-leading Sharon BMW. Local brothers, the family that go racing, Dad Michael running in the sister car, the primarily yellow BMW 135i. Here goes the HSV. There's no substitute for cubic inches, and that is a perfect example. And they've got this car handling well as well. Dean Lilly from Ravage Raceworks do a lot of the development on the big HSV, and they have got this thing hooked up. So in the space of just a couple of laps, we've seen 3 different leaders. Now the HSV is in front of this 200k race.
Policina would lead for the next 7 laps until the Sharon Rentals BMW retook the lead when this happened.
Right on board the BMW, heavy braking zone at 3 at the end of the back straight. Oh, dramas for the leader, that's the HSV off the road. So it's run wide on the exit of turn 3. And the HSV is off the road. More dramas for the big GDS. Gee, when they get this car reliable, it is going to be very, very hard to stop. But it's lost the lead and it's lost a spot on the podium as well. And there's smoke coming from the side of this number 7 GDS. What a shame. Early drama here at QR.
Policina headed for the pits to swap tyres and handed the keys to Dean Lilly. Jim Policina, they're starting to eat through these tyres.
Yeah, we've lost a few tyres over today. The first race last night and one today. It's the story of our life with this car. It's got a lot of speed and it's a fantastic vehicle, but the tyres that we've got to run on, unfortunately, aren't doing the job that's required of them.
On lap 16, the second place Product Evo 10 was battling for the lead with the Sharon Rentals BMW when the car began to slow.
We're on board with the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo. Rick Bates has done a great job to keep this car in the mix, but it might be all for naught because it's slowing on the run into turn 4. You can see that little red BMW disappearing up the road. What's going on with the Product Evo? That famous German reliability of the BMW is starting to really play its hand now. In the latter stages, as we work towards the middle point of this 200k race at QR. And who would have thought this simple layout, 6 corners, 3.1 Ks, would be such a car breaker, but it's proving to be that today. Sister car goes through. Bob Pearson behind the wheel of that car, the team owner. But the lead Product Evo limps into pit lane. It doesn't sound like there's a lot of life left in that car. So once again, this entry finds itself at the front of the field as its nearest contenders drop by the wayside. First the HSV, now the Mitsubishi. This is turning out to be a very, very big weekend for BMW here at QR, and it's always a bad sign when the bonnet goes up. And there's not a lot of action, and a nod of the head from Rick Bates, and he's jumping out. Day done for car 30. Aaron Seaton will be denied a drive. He was a star in this race 12 months ago before his car failed as well. So double disappointment. Product out with their lead car, and Rick Bates will have to go back to the truck and sit this one out.
Rick Bates, he's hot and flustered, but power steering issues have put you out for the day.
Yeah, it's throwing the belt and it'll take too long to change. So, yeah, we're out for the day. So, anyway, a bit disappointing, but that's life.
Tell by the body language down here by the Product team, it's just been one of those weekends.
Yeah, yesterday, last night's race, we sort of had good pace, but our pit strategy didn't work. And today, obviously, we're not going to finish. So, a bit of a disappointing weekend, but that's life.
Meantime, in Class C, Jake Camilleri driving the Grand Prix Mazda was comfortably leading from Colin Osborne, debuting the new Renault Megane this weekend. The sole Class D entry of Grant Phillips and Andrew Turpie were running 10th in the Pettis Suspension Toyota 86 as the pit stop window opened.
So pit stops underway here at Queensland Raceway in the 200k race round 3 of the Australian Manufacturers Championship. Here's the venerable old BMW 335i. This car's a double winner of the Bathurst 12 Hour. It's won the Australian Production Car / Manufacturers Championship. One of the great cars continues to race under the stewardship of GWS Personnel Racing. Sharon's in. What a day it's been for the Queensland combo. driver change underway. Grant will jump in, Ian will jump out. This great family racing team. The dad in the field as well. They've got this really great harmonious little bond when they go racing. Sort of like an unspoken word when they exchange the driving positions. The Pettis team in pit lane as well. Had a massive corral of Toyota 86s here at Queensland Raceway this morning, which was great to see. And Grant Phillips will jump behind the wheel of that car. Here's Berwick Linton, another Queenslander having a really good weekend. So happy to get that victory in the fight in the night last night that he's been desperate to get for so many years. It's a race that's denied him. But that's a good stop for car 18. Colin Osborne's team back after many years in Mazdas in AmChamp competition, now with a Renault. He's got 2 of them. Just the one this weekend, but hopes to have the second car back on track. And here's the ever-competitive Jake Camilleri, dubbed the Giant Killer. So many times he's knocked off the more fancy A and B class cars. Let's go down to pit lane. Matt Nolte is chatting to one of the Sherrans.
Well, Ian Sherrans just jumped out the number 18 car. Then you guys are having a better day than the sister car.
Yeah, absolutely. We're having a great day there, out in the lead. It's always nice, and that's what we come here to do, is outright lead. So, yeah, fantastic. So, Grant's got the car now, so hopefully we can bring it home today.
With the first round of pit stops completed, the calm had returned, but not for long.
Big moment, exit turn 2, one of the fastest corners on the racetrack. Gauchi behind the wheel of car 28 and has one of the biggest spins you'll ever see at Queensland Raceway. Way off into the infield, and what's going on in pit lane? That's one of the product cars limping down. Well, there's only one left in the race, so it must be Bob Pearson. Huge smoke trailing from car 33. And it could be a double DNF for the Sydney team. What a horror weekend this is turning out to be. One of the biggest supporters of production car racing in Australia. And another cursory look under the bonnet. But the way Bob's jumping out of that, I don't think this car will be going any further. Mr. Product himself, shrug of the shoulders, and it looks like day over. Huge disappointment, and the Mitsubishi contenders both out of race 2 here at Queensland Raceway.
With both product cars out, it was now an all BMW affair at the front. Tony Alford was now a threat to the number 18 Sherran Rentals BMW and the number 23 Alfira Financial Services BMW of Berwick Linton. But the complexion of the race would soon change once again on lap 51.
So here's Grant Sherran, runs it wide, runs it very wide. It's been a faultless day so far, but is the game changing for the Sherran boys who've done such a good job so far? Big moment, that very heavy stop at the back of Queensland Raceway, that run into turn 3. It's a bit of a shake of the wheel as he goes down there just to try and clear some of the dust and debris from the tyres and from the rims of the number 18 BMW. That's a critical mistake. Under pressure, this team already from Berwick Linton, and Tony Alford in the mix as well in this all BMW day, and he goes to pit lane. So fuel going into this car. It shouldn't be a massively long pit stop this late in the motor race. Grant Sherran behind the wheel. Ian did a sterling job early on. Righto is the word. Splash and dash, they're out of pit lane. But I think this race has just changed.
Class C leader Jake Camilleri pitted the Grand Prix Mazda late in the race, but maintained his lead and 5th place overall. The Pettis Toyota 86 was doing a solid job and would find itself in 8th place when the flag fell. Meanwhile, out in front, there was no stopping Berwick Linton as he set sail for the checkered flag.
Well, this has been a circuit that hasn't been friendly for Berwick Linton, despite it being home turf for the Gold Coast and Brisbane BMW dealer. But he's been one of the most successful exponents and production car racers, and a fan of this type of racing for so very long, back to the GTP days, and he's stuck with it. He loves the BMW product, and he's done a great job today. That moment from the Sherrans and that late minute stop from them elevated car 23 back to the lead, and he's going to do the double at Queensland Raceway. And we should mention this victory made even more spectacular by the fact that at the most recent round of the championship back at Phillip Island in May. This car ended up in the fence on the exit of turn 1 in one of the bigger crashes we've seen all year. Huge crash, massive repair job from this team, but it has been faultless from the moment it got on the racetrack. Queensland's Berwick Linton at Queensland Raceway does the AmChamp double. What a victory in round 3 of the Australian Manufacturers Championship. The Queenslanders doing it on home turf. Hasn't that been a familiar scene so far this year? There's the big HSV, they get to the line. Class B winners and second place to Grant and Ian Sherrin. And how about a podium for the HSV? That's a deserved result after their tyre wear dramas this weekend. Tony Alford home in 4th and Jake Camilleri, a giant killing performance again inside the top 5.
You know, we didn't have the best tyres for that race. We started and they just weren't as good as what they should have been, and so I just let them go and fight each other, and just knew that we're going to put a set of lefties on it when we stopped and hoped that they were going to be better, and they were.
They really were. A great performance from Berwick Linton. Certainly not out of championship calculations either, with a lot of racing still to go. Robin Shane Marshall missing this round drops them back, and Tony Alford finds himself on top of Class A. The Sherrin boys, as expected, top of the table in Class B. Jake Camilleri, what a performance by the Mazda driver and the Mazda 3 MPS for Grand Prix Mazda. Another Brisbane car dealership going well. The Petters 86, the only Class D entrant so far this year. And the Sherrin boys leading the outright standings in the AmChamps heading into the next round at Wakefield Park. That wraps up the AmChamp portion of the show, but more Shannon's Nationals coming your way after the break when we go racing the Super 6 touring cars.